Serena from Photography Space, and today's video we're going to be showing you how to shoot in internal aspects of a property, either for sale or for rent, using your smartphone. For the smartphone, it's not like you have a DSLR camera or bigger camera that may have its own flash or light source. So I'm going to demonstrate some of the light sources that may be suitable for lighting up a room. What you're trying to do is balance the internal and external light. Today we have the outside is quite neutral. It's quite an overcast day, which makes it easier if you're shooting in this sort of conditions. But if the light is very bright and contrasty and you're shooting during the day, you're going to have some external light sources to balance that, so you'll be able to see both inside and outside the room. So what I've got here are some cheap and cheery ideas, and it's really up to you as to what you want to use. We first of all have a very cheap $10 light, probably from IKEA or something like that. That needs to be plugged in. The alternative is, these are fantastic. These are just from Bunnings or your hardware store. These are battery powered. Give out a 1400 luminance wattage, so very bright for bright room, and they also can be hung. So you can use them to hang up here and light up the room from behind. There's also another one from a hardware store, which are also can be plugged in, but that's really a disadvantage. Better to have something that's battery powered rather than chopping and changing from room to room and finding power points. Finally, there is the big painters ones here. They pop out a large amount of light, and they can really light up a very dark room or a very big room as well. So all these light sources you want to have behind you when you're shooting and pumping light into the room. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what equipment you need other than lighting for smartphone photography for real estate and real estate properties. So what you need is a sturdy tripod. We like the Manfrotto, good Italian tripod. This is a Manfrotto B3, about $190, $200 Australian dollars, but it's a really nice sturdy tripod. You also definitely need a ball head. It will make your job much quicker and by being able to turn the head rather than have to deal with 3 different levers at the one time. So definitely a ball head. And the third thing you need is, we have a Manfrotto. It connects the phone to your tripod. It also has a metal base plate, so it's nice and handy, nice and sturdy rather. But you also need a tripod where you can adjust the legs easily. So we like these ones that really just clip out and in very quickly and easily. Avoid the ones with the screw lever on them because they just take time. So this needs to be able to go quite high and quite low as well for the shots down that you're doing, say in a bathroom where you're trying to avoid the mirrors, but also for your external shots where you need some height. The other thing that is essential for shooting this sort of photography is to have a wide angle lens. The lens in this camera is not wide enough. So we recommend something like the Moment lens. This is a good quality American lens, and it clips onto your iPhone, and it's amazing what a difference it makes in the amount that you can fit into the image, into the photo. So what happens is it just clips literally onto the back of your phone. Some of them have different sort of cases that you can use. Video, we talked about how important it was to prepare the room, prepare the property for photos. We mentioned briefly about in a room like this, I would make sure there's no power cords hanging out and make sure there's no remote controls, they all go away. Some nice flowers are good. I would open the doors so we can tell the story about the inside leading out to the outside. All the lights on to help assist in that balance between internal and external light. The photos have to be, or the artwork, make sure that's straight and not at an angle. Generally, you would take away any things that reflects the family, like photos and things like that. Anything private is probably best to take away when you're shooting the property. Cushions are important. They add to the room and add to a bit of colour, but make sure they're nicely positioned. If you want to, if you're really into cushions, you could do the what the interior designers do and do a bit of a chop in the middle of the cushion. Okay, so once the room is decluttered and you're happy, you've done a bit of a reconnaissance, it's best to look around the room and see which angles that you'd like to take the photos from. I tend to like the magazine style images, so if the room has the width, I will generally, in most photo shoots, particularly of living areas, take a straight on image like you see in the magazine. The other angles that are important are to take it from the corner, and this actually adds width to the room. So in a small room you need to be shooting from the corner, and it's a matter of then telling the story. Which corner do I shoot from? I usually like to tell the story of, okay, this is where the windows are, the doors are, this leads to an outer space, so I'll incorporate that into one of my images. Another image may be that in this room it has a fireplace, so I'll shoot from the corner and include that fireplace within the video. Now once you've decided on your angles, then you set up your scene. So you come to your phone and make sure that you have put the grid lines on your image, because that will really assist you in keeping the verticals vertical and the horizontals horizontal, which is really important. The other thing that I find most of the time, I am shooting at a very low angle. So hence, that is why I have a hole in my jeans, because often I'm down on one knee or squatting in a corner against the wall. So the reason for that is to really get the balance between, if you're up higher, often you'll get too much ceiling and not enough floor. And also going up higher, you won't be able to get the walls straight. So you won't be able to get your verticals vertical, and it'll give you that look where it's looking like a bird's eye view into the scene. Okay, this is the image you get without the wide 18mm wide angle lens attached. So this is the importance of attaching it because of the difference it makes. It's really important also especially for small rooms like bathrooms. The other thing that's important also is to get the exposure right. So even though you've got your lights coming in from behind, and the smartphones are pretty good at getting the exposure pretty accurate, but if you were to touch just in a mid-grey, so don't touch a bright area and you don't touch a dark area, you touch, say about there, about mid-grey, which then balances the whole scene for the right lighting conditions. Okay, not only do I find myself on my knees a lot of the time or squatting, which is why I wear jeans. I really would reinforce that you wear jeans, and also a dark colour top so that you're not reflecting in windows as much as if you're wearing a white top. And the other thing is also, I often find myself way back in a room, so you usually get the width of the room. So half the time my tripod's sticking outside. Okay, so this is an example of an angled shot of a room. Once again, you're trying to show as much width as you can, and often I don't show all the lounge suite, just come down the side of the lounge suite, but just make sure your verticals are verticals, lining them up against the edge of the window here and against the wall down this side. I would often also show an entry into a house, and often then you'll get how rooms lead off other rooms, what the entry is like, and then where the other rooms are in relation to the entry itself. Also, shooting so that you can see other rooms adds space and makes the place look bigger. If it's a very narrow entry, I won't be shooting it straight on. I will shoot at an angle and often include the front door and then leading into another room. Otherwise, it's going to make it even look more longer and narrower. Okay, in this image, I've used the door to the right-hand side as a leading line, leading the eye into the scene. And I've also used the rule of thirds. So I've divided the image so that you can see the room to the left, the central room, and a little bit of the room to the right. Plus also it shows that it is a 2-story house because you see the stairs leading up to the 2nd story. Now shooting a dining room. So dining rooms are easy. You want to tell the story of the dining room about whether it's close to a living area. So I'll be shooting the dining room from a couple of different angles. So with this dining room, I would shoot it straight on again, one of my favourite straight on angles, because it's got a nice green backdrop behind it, and it also lends itself to that with the artwork. The other angle that I often use with dining rooms is to shoot straight down from the ends of the table. If that was the case, I often would grab the end chair and shoot fairly high, otherwise the lower you shoot, the bigger the table is going to look. And then I would line up the ends of the table here to each corner of the image that you're looking at on your smartphone. And that really gives a lovely line leading down through the room. Okay, so another angle that I think is nice is to show how the dining room leads from one room to another. In this instance, the dining room leads outside to the entertainment areas outside. It also leads to the kitchen and the living area. So I want to do a shot coming across here that shows how one area is linked to another. As mentioned in the previous video, it's really important to make sure you declutter, and the kitchen is often one of those areas that isn't decluttered well. So what I've done here is I've taken away the phone that's plugged in here. There is a coffee machine, but that's okay, that lends itself to the lifestyle. I've taken away if there was a knife block, I'd take that away, and I've also taken away the tea towel hanging from here. The other thing that's really imperative is to take away everything from the fridge. Often there's personal photos and things like that, and they really need to go. It gives much cleaner lines is what you're looking for. Okay, so with kitchens, once again decluttering as I said, if there's a kitchen bench sitting up, I would include that in one of the images. So in this sort of kitchen I usually take an angled image, say across here, which shows as a breakfast bar leading up to the kitchen. Odd numbers always look better than even numbers, so often I would either separate this out, so there's 1 stool and 3, or else take 1 stool away completely, so there's only 3 stools. So this is an angle that I quite like, but you also want to show what appliances are within the kitchen. So another angle that I like to do also is a straight on angle. So this angle's coming through here and framing just the kitchen itself, including the lights. They create a nice shadow on the ceiling. One problem you often have when in a photo shoot where people living in the house are the pets wanting to photobomb your scene. So if you can try and get the owner to keep the pets at bay, and make sure pets or children are not running into your image. Okay, so the other angle I take in the kitchen is a straight on angle. Once again, this is to tell the story that the kitchen is close to the living area, which is close to the dining area, but also the other story it's telling is that what appliances are within the kitchen. So I do a straight on angle straight down through here. Use your leading lines. So maybe if you can line up the image from the corner of the bench, which leads you into the shot. If there are any of the any little marks on the fridge, they can be photoshopped or use Lightroom or an editing process to get rid of those after. And the same thing applies to the downlights. Often these downlights are blown, and so that's very easy rectified in post-production. Okay, so how to shoot a living area. Living areas are where you can really go to town, particularly if there's furniture within the area, within the living area. So what I often do in living areas is to take lots of straight on angles. So, and generally we would recommend that you try and take 2 images per room, but in a living area and a kitchen, you probably want more than like 3 or 4 images for these areas. So with the living area, the most important thing is once again to declutter, take anything away that's not really adding to your scene. And secondly, the living area, it's best not to photograph down the back of a lounge suite. That really makes the lounge suite dominate. So try and keep towards the front of the lounge suite. Although another really good angle, which I quite like, is to shoot from the outside, looking across the top of the lounge suite back into the rest of the room. Also, like with the other rooms we've talked about, shoot an angle that goes across from when you're shooting. Shoot from a corner when you're shooting a living room. And this, as you can see in this image, it shows how one room is connected to another room. For real estate photography and for whether it be sales or rentals, shooting detailed shots is not really part of the course. Leave that more to your architectural or your interior design shoot. In real estate, people want to see what the space looks like. When shooting living areas, another one of my favourite shots is to show how the inside links with the outside. So I will do a shot across this angle here, showing that, oh, okay, it leads out to the backyard outside. Okay, so do you shoot the laundry or do you not shoot the laundry? If it's a very zhuzhy laundry with lots of equipment, I probably would shoot it. And if it's a laundry that's in an apartment, I would also probably shoot it. But particularly if it's in a cupboard, and it would save people going to their local laundromat or going downstairs to a communal laundry. But generally for rentals, for real estate, in houses, I'm not shooting the laundry. Bathrooms are often the hardest places to shoot. Now this is a decent sized bathroom, but often bathrooms are small and narrow, and I'll show you some tricks along the way as to how to make them look not so small and narrow. But with bathrooms, the most important thing is declutter. Take everything you can off the benches. If there's any towels, you can use towels, but just make sure they're nice and new and fluffy and welcoming. If not, just get rid of them. Better to have no towels at all. Now often, for a couple of reasons, I'll open the shower screen when I'm shooting. The first reason is because I don't want to be reflected within the screen, and the second thing is that the screen is often like this, is a little bit aged and a bit soapy and grotty, and you can't get it off. So opening that will just avoid shooting through that scummy door front. Okay, so ideas for shooting bathrooms. First of all, don't have any flash. If you do have the capability of flash, don't use it, because you shoot lots of shiny surfaces like the tiles and the mirror, and you'll just get flash bouncing all over the room. Secondly, what angles to take. Now I have a toilet here on my right hand side. That's part of the bathroom, but with toilets it's best not to show too much of them, because they're not, really that great a thing to be sort of taking great photos of. So I would just give the illusion as half the toilet, and then really show that there's a toilet there leading to the rest of the bathroom. This particular angle also shows how the bathroom leads off the bedroom, so it's telling a story. So with each of your images, try and tell a story. Okay, so how to make a small bathroom look big? There's a couple of tricks to this. One is use your wide angle. Secondly, bring yourself right back into the corners so that you're just coming in. When you first set up the shot, look for these angles here, the door or the door over there and this door here, and then just move slightly forward so that you don't show where the room begins and ends. You don't show the framing. So that's relevant to every sort of room, how to make the room look bigger. Also with bathrooms, an angle going across like this is going to make the room look a lot bigger than if you were to shoot straight on. Okay, so as mentioned before, your leading lines are important. So I've set up this straight on shot of the bathroom, and I've created an image that leads from the white tiles into the room. You can also use the bench, the edge of the bench, and that leads the eye into the room. Now the thing that's difficult with bathrooms is that if the mirror is very low. So hence I'm down here on my knees again, and you just have to position it so that if you've got a very low mirror, so that the edge of the camera, the top of the camera is just underneath the edge of the mirror, so you're not seeing it in your shot. The worst thing is, the most unprofessional thing is to get either yourself or your camera and gear within the shot, either in a reflection in a window or in a reflection in a mirror. Okay, when shooting a main bedroom, we talked about a little bit about this in the previous video about how to declutter. But with the main bedroom, it's important to get rid of any sort of tissue boxes, making sure that nothing underneath the bed, making sure that the bedside lamps are on, the lights are on the ceiling as well. And once again, sort of tidying everything up, no shoes, no sort of dirty clothes, nice perhaps books on the bedside tables, some pillows, cushions, a throw, just to make it look the best you can. In bedrooms, like most rooms, it's really critical that you get the verticals vertical and horizontals horizontal. It's a little bit tricky sometimes when you're shooting from a corner, but really work at different aspects within the room, like the door frames and the ceiling and any other things like some cupboards and things to really get those angles right. Next with the bedroom, it's what angles do you shoot. You want to tell a story, so you're wanting to, especially in the main bedroom, you want to show that maybe there's off this angle over here, that the room leads into a walk-in wardrobe or has some built-in cupboard space. You want to also maybe show that there's a bathroom that comes off the bedroom. So you need to incorporate those into your shots. Okay, so as far as walk-in robes, do you shoot them? Do you not shoot them? It depends on, once again, how nice they are. Are they adding to the value of the property or the rental? Or do you just want to allude to them? So sometimes I will shoot, if it's a very glamorous one, I will shoot it as a single image. But if not, I will just sort of allude to it. And maybe in this, as in this property, I will include it as part of the rest of the room. So another quite cool feature of the smartphones, which is really handy to have for this sort of photography, is this HDR, high dynamic range. So what this means is that the camera itself creates 3 or 4 different photos, and it exposes for the highlights, so here, then exposes for the shadows, this area through here, and then exposes for the midtones here, and then it blends those 3 images together. So the way we work that is, and this is particularly good when you're trying to show what is outside the property. Sometimes you don't want to do that. Sometimes it's just an asbestos fence or a house very close nearby. So you don't want to do that. But when it's something that's nice and green, as you can see outside here, which adds value to the property, you want to show that outside. So in this button down here, which is now currently off, high dynamic range, we press that and it comes on. At the moment there's an auto, an on and an off setting. So let's put this on. Okay, the little HDR, high dynamic range, comes up in the top, and then it's just a matter of taking the photo, and as long as you keep your finger on it, the more images it will take. So it took 6 images in that one to blend them together, and let's have a look at the result. So pretty good, pretty good. So that blends all those images together for an image that is well balanced both internally and externally. Just to show another cool tip, is if you're not using HDR, you could also use your finger to bring up, so say for example, I'm wanting to expose the highlights here outside. So if I tap on that, you see that this is well exposed, but the rest of the room here is a bit darker. If I then change that and tap on this dark section over here, you can see how it changes. The exposure then is metering around, based around or averaging around this dark section, and therefore the rest of the room is blown out. It's too much. So when you're doing this, if you're using this technique, if you put your finger on something that's about halfway between the highlights and the shadows, say this mid-grey point here, that gets it about right. So now we're shooting the front elevation, the front of the house. The main tips for this one is to once again declutter, same thing again. So I would shift the hose here. I don't really like hoses, I don't really add anything to the scene. The cars on this side also, I generally don't like cars in the carport, but sometimes when you're shooting rentals, the owner might have left, or the tenant might have left the car there and there's no way to shoot. And in fact, sometimes, you know, if there's storage or bikes in front of or bins is another thing that's often in front of the cars, it actually covers them up. So sometimes you can't get around that. Bins is another thing. Just make sure bins are not in the shot because it's not adding to the shot. If you have a front gate leading into the property, it's quite nice to show that front gate being open if you're shooting beyond the gate, as it is for the front door. I think it's more inviting if you have an open front door leading into the house. Okay, so which angles do I shoot when I'm shooting the front of a property? Generally there's 2 angles that I prefer. One is a front on angle, straight on, showing the house as it is. And whether you shoot that close to the house, if there's properties on either side, that may not be that great. Or if I go back a little bit, and that may show a fence or part of a verge that's part of the house. The second angle I use is an angled shot from the corner. So this is the corner that's opposite to the carport or the garage. And that way it shows then it doesn't make the garage look too big. If I was to shoot from the other corner, it makes the garage or the carport look huge and the rest of the property and the rest of the house looks small. So I'll be shooting from the opposite corner and shooting back towards the house. That also gives some three-dimensionality, so people then see how far the house or the property goes back on the block. Will have at least one, if not a couple, of outdoor living areas, and you've got to include these it's best to include these in your shots, because outdoor spaces, particularly here in Australia, are a lifestyle thing. So the angles that I take for courtyards are to shoot showing how big the space is. So I would shoot, say, from the corner here, and I would shoot out towards the corner at an angle. And that then shows that where the boundaries are, what the garden's like, and whether there is a pergola. So I then would shoot from the front of the courtyard looking back in towards the house. This is where you need to have the tripod at its highest that it will go, because to get your verticals vertical. The other little trick that you can do is either gain some height by maybe stepping up into the garden, or if you've got a little step ladder, often that's handy to have with you to get some height. Or the third thing that you can do is to put the smartphone on a self timer, say for 2 or 10 seconds, and then elevate the whole tripod, and then you'll get more chance of getting your verticals vertical. And you can also show now that the house is a double-story house. Once again, we can't say it's so important to declutter the scene. So things like pool robots, okay, getting the leaves off the cushions, okay, removing dog bowls out of the scene, hidden behind something else, hoses out, hidden behind something else. Like these covers on the barbecue, it makes the barbecue look like one big black blob in your image. So as long as the barbecue's not too rusty and decrepit underneath, take the cover off and hide it inside for when you take the image. Okay, so now we're shooting the back part of the house. Lovely if it's got a pool. Do certainly that's a selling point or a rental point. So then include that in your shot. So what angle do you shoot when shooting across the pool? You obviously want to include the house behind it, and you're wanting to, the lower you shoot, the bigger it makes the pool look. So if that's the case, do that. You can also, if you're wanting to, once again, use your leading lines. So maybe you want to shoot from the end of the pool, leading back into the rest of the scene. So if you've got a pool, another way is to shoot it straight on. And if you can match up the corners, like we did on the table in the dining room, match the corners then leading down towards the house. These straight-on shots are really effective. Just be very careful about going around the edges of the pools. If you're lucky enough to have an iPhone XS, they're waterproof to 2 meters, but don't test it. Okay, so what angles do you shoot when you're shooting a backyard? You shoot from the corner, again the corner angle, perhaps across the pool, but another nice one is a straight on shot, straight down the line, looking back towards the house. If in this case it does have a pool, include the pool in half the shot, the fence and the rest of the yard in the other half of the shot. The final 2 images which or angles which I often use is to show the side of the house in that image that takes you to also show the backyard. And also I like doing a straight on, so straight on down the middle of the shot here, which then incorporates the inside and the outside. My third favourite, I said there's only 2 but there are 3, is to come back here and do an angled shot from this angle here, showing the inside the house plus a bit of the outside of the house. So how the 2 link up together. So that about wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed this video brought to you by Photography Space. If you want more information, of course, to access our many other courses, a link will be at the end of this video. But I hope it really makes you go out there and take fantastic images of real estate and for sale or for properties for rent.